So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the second tabernacle services, where we find the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. We find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. As we read then Yeshayahu the prophet, we always make reference of this prophet because though he was a true, regarded, and respected prophet, yet he was not very loved by the nation he was born in. Let's try to understand why then he was sawn in half, and why then, in the perspective of the Hebraic culture, why the Hebrews rejected him so much. The Creator himself has promised, Yahweh himself promised, that he then in the future, he was then using the Gentiles, those who were never even were named by his holy name, then these people he's going to use. So it is truly amazing. There's such a great wealth of information and holy instructions, and the nation of Israel itself did not understand the importance of these instructions and what the great prophet was explaining, and they went so far as destroying this person. So let's then make an evaluation so then we understand the original manuscripts, and not only we explain what's going on as far as this present age and where we are heading towards, but then also making an evaluation why the great prophets of old were then destroyed. So then many congregations around the world, they are always searching for something new, or then either a new teaching or a new situation, but then they don't make the time to evaluate what then the Creator has done thus far. And one of the important situations is recognizing that the prophets of old were destroyed because the people, they want conveniences. As long as we don't understand that we ourselves, when we don't understand the holy instructions as per what it is, and not trying to hide behind family, not trying to hide behind a husband and wife and kids, but doing what Shaliach Shaul has said, if we want to become productive, remain single, because your entire strength, your focus, your entire being is dedicated 100% for the work of the kingdom. Now, the Messiah has said that the cares of the world then destroys the word. Why destroys the word? Because when the word is planted, then the cares of the world, meaning families, they take away the focus from the word into the cares of the world, and it doesn't produce fruit. Now, Shaliach Shaul has said, some people, they are able to understand this portion, some people, they can't. Now, let's understand to whom Shaliach Shaul was directing this portion of the scripture, so then we understand and make a proper balance of the situation. He said, if then a man is not able then to restrain himself, then let him find a wife and have a family. The problem is the cares of the world, they are going to be so much in the person because the world there is so much crap in it that a person is going to spend time trying to please the wife, pleasing the kids. And where is the word? So he was talking with those men who were Gentiles and having a spouse or a wife from the Hebraic lineage. Let's then understand this once again. Shaliach Shaul, when he was then making sure his people then were involved in understanding as far as the completion of the spring feast found in Leviticus the 23rd chapter from the 1st verse through the 21st verse. As those people were becoming aware of this fact, then Ruach HaKodesh obviously was active as long as they were recognizing and receiving the truth of the Messiah, and he completed the spring feast. But there was those Gentiles that were interrelated with the Hebrews, and these men, they could not get a hold of themselves. Now we are not talking only of the Gentiles, because in order for the Gentiles to come to the faith of the Hebrews or become a Jewish person, what does it require? Requires then a person going through a conversion time, and it's not done overnight. Understandably, the Messiah had taken a year, 12 months, to get the nation back on track as far as the holy feast is and how they should be maintained. Now, the minimum time a person understands a conversion is at least 12 months, because it is obviously the year where then you understand the spring and the autumn feasts, and then also what is related with these. Now let me ask you this. Shaliach Shaul, for instance, explaining in the area of the Corinthians, was he then directing the word of the Torah and the prophets and the writings and the completion of the spring feast to a gang of Gentiles that only overheard situations regarding a spirit that was active amongst the Hebrews? Do you think these Gentiles would have enough background of what the spirit was up for? They would not have a clue what the Spirit was leading towards. They were never part of the faith. They did never understand the feasts. So how are they going to relate with the Torah and the shadow prophetic events of the future if they did not have the basis? So obviously when he was saying, let him then get in a relationship, he's saying because the Gentile man related with a Hebrew wife could not endure what it takes to become then the leader. Then let the relationship goes on. And if a man then can't stand staying alone, then let him find a wife. But you can be sure of it, afterwards they won't produce fruit. You can embellish as much as you want, you make it as nice and flowery as you can, but most often a person that is then involved with a family gets entangled. There are many exceptions, and it is true, but most often those people who are involved in a relationship, either husband and wife, either they are either going to try to please one another, either buy another house, or then having another dog, and having another cat, another bird, building a barn, and then so on and so forth, cares of the world. You can analyze any way you want. So then those people who are abnormal, those people that can't handle themselves, that's what Shaliach Shaul was saying. In order for us to be used of God, we have to give Him 100%. And you want to know more? When is for a person to get involved in a relationship, the Creator Himself points out. It's not the decision of the person. Not because you came to the age, now I got to find a mate. No, you have to ask God if He wants you to have a mate. Because you probably, most likely, you're going to be more useful working on behalf of the kingdom than if you have a spouse. Because God has made families so people can multiply, and then is there not already enough people in this earth who are absolutely at no use for the kingdom? Do you think God wants to have you again in a relationship so then the earth can be multiplied even further with people that do nothing for the kingdom? So when we come to our age, we should ask God if He wants you to be involved in a relationship. Let Him direct. And this makes a distinction as far as either you trying to obviously direct your own life, means you are an idolater, because you don't recognize God first. You impose upon Him, you want a mate, and you go after it. Now, you want sober teaching, sober understandings? Charlie Shaul then was saying, if you want to become then productive on behalf of the kingdom, don't get involved in a relationship. Now, you have to make this decision yourself. You want to say to yourself, you want to become productive for the kingdom. Then obviously don't get yourself in a relationship. Don't have a family. But then spend your time in the Torah, reading the Word, the instructions, the prophets, and then the Shilishim, the apostles. Because once you get in a relationship, you are not going to be productive. The only exception is when God Himself points you where you should be involved in a relationship for His purpose, not for your own pleasure. Because if you do only for your own pleasure, then you want only conveniences in this world. Thus, not only where you go you become a hindrance, you yourself you do not produce any fruit, and you encourage other people of only wanting pleasures in this age. It is very sneaky. So the best is, let's ask God what He wants. Because the Messiah has said, the harvest truly is plenty, but the laborers are only a few. But He was trying to say the rest of them, they are having so many cares of this world, can't use them. And there is another evil in this world amongst these people. They only want to have a family and conveniences in their lives. They promote others. They pat in the back of each other. And then they have this stare at those who are singles. Yes, they are evil. When God does not point either her or him to be in a relationship in order to glorify Him and do His work, then because of conveniences of this world, contaminated world, then they have dirty eyes upon those who are singles. Then they try to find fault. Yes, they are absolutely scoundrels. because they want to make a name for themselves upon their own ways of observing life. And most often, God never speaks with these people. So let's be wise. If you are young, don't try to find a mate. Read the Torah, read the instructions, read the writings, the Shilishim. Get yourself involved with the Word. Find yourself older friends, older reliable friends. Try to stay away from youth of your own age. Push yourself for your maturity, so then years later you can be used. Now, if you are on a television most of the day, if you are playing then with the video games the entire day and watching crap on television, do you think God is going to use in the future? Do you think He wants crap in His kingdom? Because if you put into your system crap in your mind, crap is going out. You can't hide what you do, what you hear, what you watch, what you play with. Don't think God is going to give a special reason in the future so you can preach His word. No, it's going to come out of you crap, because you spend most of your time with crap and you're going to talk crap. And then because God does not use you because you have so much of it, then you try to find a mate, thinking that the mate is going to catapult you forward so then you can become godly. And then you find out your mate was also involved with crap and becomes truly entangled when each other they are trying to please each other and comes to a point that they can't. So when Shaliach Shaul has said, let him then who can't restrain himself, he's talking when a person can't be normal. Being normal is being single and producing on behalf of the kingdom. Now, if you try to manipulate yourself to get a mate in thinking God is giving you, then it's not valid. So Shaliach Shaul was explaining, those men who are involved with the Hebrew women, and these men, when they are ready to enter the relationship, either in it or then entering, but he is truly saying, stay single. It's the only way of producing fruit. Save when he himself directs you to be in a relationship. And then when you are in a relationship, it's for his purpose. As far as the congregations, in today's world, you find that the most important portion of your life is finding a mate. That's another junk that was played for a long time. The most important portion of your life is when you understand revelation, when you become a revealed person. In order for us to understand this portion, then we must study seriously what the Messiah has done and what the Shilishim have done. The Shilishim, they were striving for revelation. Shaliach Shaul even said, make sure you understand prophecy. And be in the midst of those who are then involved with prophecy, because it's the most profitable. Why? Because they receive revelations. As far as reading the holy instructions, we understand there's a lot of cleaning up to get done. We understand, for instance, Cornelius was an absolute scoundrel as far as when they were translated the instructions. However, he himself, when he was involved with the event itself, he was then truthful. The problem was later when the Romans tried to translate the documents, they switched them around. The situation with Cornelius was as this. The Holy Hebrews, they were coming around and they were most often praying. Ruach HaKodesh was always active amongst the Hebrews of the time. And understandably, when the Messiah ascended until Cornelius, you find 10 plus 5 years. It is a long time. And the Hebrews, they were directing the nations during this period. They were not giving orders to those nations. They were directing them. So how did it then work? How was then the situation involved? Nations around, they would send representatives and they would inquire amongst the Hebrews. Then they would give the information to the Hebrews they were praying, and they would inquire of Yahweh himself. Via his son, then these people were then receiving answers. Then a person of the Hebrews, they would go there and talk to the representative of this particular nation. He would say, regarding your problem that you have to come to us with, do as such. So this person would return to the country, and then they did what was said, and later on a representative would return with a positive word. Thus there were then joy amongst the Hebrews. And this was for 10 plus 5 years. It was a long time. Then Cornelius, he was a man of authority, and he knew of the reputation of the Hebrews. We are not talking about only that they were praying. We are talking about years of reputation. And then he decided to get his money from the military, and he would obviously buy clothing and nourishment and provisions for those who were unfortunate, and then the Hebrews had taken notice. And one day they said, what you have done thus far, heaven knows it. Period. Simple. But then Cornelius wanted more. And then the Hebrew person said, simply then, if you want more, as you are then asking for more, go over there in Joppa and find Shimon. And that's what they said. Plain and simple. And they returned to their duties. Then Cornelius had taken a delegation of his own, and he went to Joppa to visit with Shimon. When he was there at the place where Shimon was at, then he was resting a bit. Shimon was waiting for then the meal to become ready, and then he was there resting, and he had this understanding during his dream of these many animals and this kind of cloth that came down. And then God said, go ahead and eat. And he said, no, I never touched anything dirty. Explaining then that a Gentile was coming and for him not to treat him as dirty. Thus he woke up, and there he was, while they were in Joppa. Then he came down with he prostrated before Shimon. He said, oh, no, come on. Get up, what's going on? And they were having a conversation, and then simply Cornelius informed Shimon what went on. And then Shimon perceived there was a link from heaven, his brothers, the Hebrews, and a Gentile person, and what he was reported was true. Shimon recognized in his spirit this man is saying the truth. And then, in order to confirm the situation, they together went back to Caesarea. And then Shimon informed the Hebrews in Caesarea that it is true. This Gentile was able to give the word truthful to me. And then, obviously, later on, he was then converted. So that's how you read the situation regarding Cornelius. Now, after 10 plus 5 years, the Holy Hebrews doing this continuously, and they never failed once. And then you are going to say then that Cornelius has sent a delegation to get Shimon to come to him? You have to be joking. Cornelius did not send a delegation to get Shimon. He went over there to visit with him. And he went there trembling because they were involved with a holy presence. But the point is, they came back together from Joppa to Caesarea in order to inform the Hebrews there. So then, the circuitry of the Creator himself giving his word, producing fruit, and then returning. Now, in congregations, people, they dance, understandably, but they dance for no reason. Why are they dancing for? The Torah is perfect every time. The dancing portion of it and the contentment comes because the representatives of nations would come, inquire of them, they would give them answers, they would return, do what they were told on their own. And then there was a positive outcome of these, and then the representative would return and it would say to the Hebrews, worked. Then they had joy in a camp. That's the only reason then they had to dance. Now, dancing for dancing itself is ridiculous. No, it is fun, you know. Sometimes during the time of worship and so on, sometimes you get, a bit of a itchy in your rear and you want to do some dancing. Go ahead and do some dancing. But dancing, there is a reason for it. As nations are in trouble, they make inquire of the Holy Creator via His people, then they receive answers because they came to us with their problems. Then they do what it was told, and then they return later with a positive outcome. Then people should dance. Because the Creator Himself deserves the praise because He spoke with those people, though they didn't deserve it. Yes, they were then directed. So then when you read Acts number 10, then you know how to read properly. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.